team, my issues are deeper than just can we go beat the Ravens. That's why I still have hesitation.
Yeah, look, I think that they are turning a corner. I think, look, number one, look at the pace that they played at yesterday. The speed component looks like it's back now. Okay, and when you have that, whether it be you're talking about go balls, whether you're talking about jet sweeps, those kinds of things that are stretching the field horizontally and vertically, it just starts to create more space. The running game.
Chiefs Kingdom Report? Lean in, because tonight we're not just recapping a box score, we're reading a pulse. And for the first time this season, you can actually feel it in your chest. The conversation around Kansas City has been split. On one side, the skeptics saying Baltimore's defense would make anyone look better. On the other, the believers pointing to a switch flipped back to what made this offense terrifying in the first place: tempo, spacing, and pure velocity. And the most important line wasn't about stats, it was about identity. The speed component looks like it's back. That matters because speed is the geometry of this offense. It stretches you vertically with the threat of go balls, and it slices you horizontally with jet motion until your angles and your rules fall apart. You saw that version of Kansas City as they rolled the Ravens 37-20, a result that was more than a win. It was a reminder that when this team plays with pace, Andy Reid's playbook goes from a list of calls to a living organism that mutates every snap. And you don't have to take just the vibe for it. This wasn't a squeaker decided by bounces. It was a decisive, physical, multi-phase performance that sent Baltimore home beat up and searching for answers as Lamar Jackson exited with a hamstring issue during that loss, a development that underscores just how violently the current turned in this matchup. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes, because every conversation about speed, space, and stress begins with number 15. When the pace clicks, Mahomes doesn't just distribute, he dictates. Watch the rhythm throws early: catch, plant, rip. That timing is a tell that the quarterback sees windows before they open, and it showed up in how Kansas City layered concepts: floods to one side married with backside glance routes, quick attack hitches into RPO looks that froze second-level defenders, and the kind of launch point variance that turns pass rush into a cardio workout. And then there's Travis Kelce, who didn't just produce, he transported. Great tight ends have a superpower. They can force defensive coordinators to call a safety meeting between series. When Kelce is puncturing the seam, safeties creep. And when safeties creep, edges widen. And when edges widen, jet motion starts cashing checks. That's what speed component is back actually means. The Chiefs' offense reclaims the leverage battle before the ball is snapped. You saw it in how the horizontal stretches made Baltimore play on roller skates, and in how the vertical threats reclaimed the back of the end zone. When that DNA shows up, Kansas City looks less like a team and more like a math problem the defense can't solve in 40 seconds. Now, the skeptics will say Baltimore's defense has been leaky, and they aren't wrong to point to the struggles. This Ravens unit has not been itself against the run or the pass through the first month, and the injuries piled up even more in this game. But context isn't an eraser. Kansas City didn't just stumble into explosives, they created them with structure and with speed. That's crucial because the conversation around the Chiefs the last 2 years has been, can they win left-handed? Can they line up and hammer 4-minute offense? Can they play bully ball in December? Can they math out the matchups when the skill group isn't pristine? In this one, the answer felt like yes, yes, and yes. The Ravens' attrition is real. Lamar's hamstring, key defensive pieces nicked up, the whole shape of their roster stretched. And yet, it was Kansas City's conditioning and pace that defined the story. This wasn't just about who the opponent was. It was about who the Chiefs decided to be. Let's talk receivers, because that's where the season arc gets spicy. Kansas City has been navigating turbulence. Rashee Rice opened the year suspended 6 games under the league's personal conduct policy, eligible to return in Week 7. And first-round burner Xavier Worthy has bounced on and off the injury report. That's not a speed-friendly reality. But what you saw against Baltimore is how this offense can preload speed without even needing a full deck of wideouts. Reid and Nagy used motion as a multiplier, turning B-level foot speed into A-level stress by timing when and where it hits the formation. It was orbit, jet, short return, and quick stack looks that forced defenders to swap, pass off, or widen just enough. Now imagine that same structure when Rice is back in the building and Worthy is fully ramped up. The geometry expands, the panic grows. Chiefs fans, the terrifying part isn't that this looked good, it's that it can get better, soon. Everyone keeps hammering the run game critique. They don't run it well enough. And look, that's a fair mid-September talking point most years. But freeze the tape and consider what run game means in Kansas City. It isn't just inside zone and duo, it's constraint. It's the jet touch that widens a force player so the next call hits cleaner. It's the RPO glance that punishes a linebacker who overplays the A-gap. It's the toss read with orbit that forces a nickel to take a bad angle. The Chiefs don't have to be a 150 yards per game juggernaut between the tackles. They have to be credible enough to trigger the safety tilt and punish light boxes. Against Baltimore, that's exactly what happened. The threat layer multiplied, and the Ravens bled yards after contact because the first hit was late or off balance. If you're measuring Kansas City's run health solely by raw RB yardage, you're missing the science of how this offense makes you wrong before the handoff even happens. And when the offense is on schedule like this, the run game, however you define it, does its job. Defensively, there's a quiet swagger returning, and it matters for the ceiling conversation. You don't beat a Jackson-led offense 37-20 without winning situational downs and closing space on the perimeter. The Chiefs leveraged disguise, rolled late, and forced Baltimore into third and difficult pockets where the playbook narrows and the rush heats up. That's how you flip field position and own the middle eight. As the game wore on, Baltimore's offense felt like it was climbing a treadmill. More effort, less ground. And when momentum dovetails with injury, things snowball. The Ravens left this one not just with a loss, but with a quarterback question heading into Week 5. Kansas City's defense didn't just hold serve, it reshaped an opponent's immediate future. That's a contender behavior, not just a good team on a good day. Zoom out to the season arc and ask the only question that matters in Kansas City. Is this formula sustainable when the weather turns and the scouting reports tighten? Here's the case for yes. First, the offense's core advantage, Mahomes' post-snap processing, travels. When the speed component is paired with rhythm and the call sheet leans into motion as a force multiplier, Mahomes isn't chasing explosives, he's manufacturing layups that later become explosives. Second, reinforcements are scheduled. Rice's return in Week 7 rewires the receiver room and tilts coverages. Worthy's continued ramp-up, once fully healthy, adds the raw speed that restores the every blade of grass threat. Spags' defense playing complementary ball behind that, that's the recipe Kansas City has ridden for years. If you thought the 37-20 was a blip, consider the roster trajectory and the fact that the schedule will have to start respecting Kansas City's speed again on tape. At that point, you're playing the quarterback, the tempo, and the ghosts of motion all at once. Good luck. So let's circle back to that clip, the heartbeat moment. The speed component looks like it's back. That's not hype. It's a description of leverage re-earned. It's linebackers widening 2 steps earlier. It's safeties flattening their angles. It's corners peaking for a split second at motion and paying with separation. It's the pocket moving, the launch point shifting, and a defense burning a timeout not because of confusion, but because of exhaustion. That's Kansas City at its apex. Less about a single superstar play and more about 100 small stresses that lead to one scoreboard truth. And if that's the team we saw against Baltimore, then the conversation isn't, are the Chiefs good? It's the familiar one. Who in the AFC can live in this kind of math for 60 minutes when the lights get hot? And after this week, the answer feels short. Chiefs Kingdom, I want to hear from you. Did this feel like the night the offense finally remembered who it is? Do you think the speed and spacing we saw will carry once Rashee Rice is back in Week 7 and Worthy is fully rolling? What did you notice in the pacing, in the motion, in the way Kelce worked the seams, and how that softened the edges for everything else? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you think this offense goes next, and if you're riding with this team's identity snapping back into place, hammer that like button, subscribe to Chiefs Kingdom Report, and share this with the one friend who keeps saying the dynasty is over. Tonight, the tape says otherwise.